Mark question number 20, revision program. I'm going to start by straight away looking at the internal audit. So remember, ladies and gentlemen, that for internal audit, what am I supposed to look at really? For me to say that this internal audit department is a serious department, very few things. Number one, I would look at their technical competence. Are they qualified to do this job efficiently, to do a job that can be relied upon by external auditors? So are they competent? Number two, I will look at their reporting structure. If you're told that the internal audit reports to the chief finance officer of a company, internal audit reports to the chief finance officer of a company, is that right or not right? Is that right or not right? Red flag. Thank you very much. Thank you. Not right. That's a red flag. Who are they supposed to be reporting to? Who are they supposed to be reporting to? For these big established organizations, we expect internal audit department here to report to who? To report to who? To report to who? To report to, at least for us to say that there is some kind of a management. No, not management. To the board, no. Director, it is the audit committee. They should report to the audit committee alone. Audit committee alone. So they should really be in connection. I need to see, Doc. Some of us have not muted. Oh, there are people who are not muted. Okay. It should be audit committee. Thank you very much, Mayom. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So quite a simple thing, really. So Mark, here we are told, always start by reading the requirement. We are told, evaluate the benefits to Mark Limited over outsourcing its internal audit function. You know, for internal audit, you must have been told for internal audit that either an organization will work with full-time employees, or they can decide to outsource the internal audit function. They can decide to outsource the internal audit function. Which one is better? Work with our own internal audit team or outsource? Which one is better? Which one is better? Which one is better? Should we work with our own internal audit people here who are full-time employed, or should we outsource? If you guys are not talking to me, I'll get someone to talk to me. Outsourcing is much better. Outsourcing is much better. Yes, I understand that they will be having their ups and downs both ways, but outsourcing at the end of the day is better. Then can a good student in this case here go ahead and they give me only 3? I don't want so many. Only 3 advantages of outsourcing internal audit function. Only 3. Only 3. Expertise, I like what I'm seeing there. Expertise, yes. Expertise, yes. You know, chances are, ladies and gentlemen, for us in this case here, ladies and gentlemen, whenever we are hiring our own employees, chances are we'll only hire, for example, the topmost guy who is very experienced, and then give him inexperienced people. But when we give this particular job to an outside organization, chances are this outside organization there has been in this business for over 10 years, right? So we have in this case here the concept of what here expertise, and then we have the independence threats. This organization that is out there really will not be having a kind of a undue pressure, will not be having a kind of a, the threats will not be as much as compared to somebody who is here. Those threats, I know you know them, familiarity, isn't it? Remember, the external firm can keep on changing the people who are coming to work in our internal audit department. All right. Self-review, surface, yes. Thank you very much. So any other advantage, any other self-interest, yes, you can see self-interest, somebody who is employed here, who is earning 400,000. This person earning 400,000 a month, should he go saying something bad, something against the board, something against the chief finance officer? This guy will go home. So he'll be having a lot of fear as they work. So we have here from Jackson, competence, I like that, cutting of costs, of maintaining the internal audit staff. Yes, cutting of costs, I like that. Why? Because when I have full-time employees, there are those statutory deductions. There are so many things you have to do. Right now, remember, ladies and gentlemen, especially firms that pay gratuities, like every 3 years, companies are paying quite a lot to staff. Why can't I have, in this case here, a firm that I bring on board? We agree with them. I'll be paying you 100,000 as an organization. Mujipange. Hakuna mambo ya NSSF. Hakuna mambo mengi ni withhold tu bas na kuwapatia yao. Hakuna mambo, for example, ya kupelekwa kotini in terms of what here? Labor relations. Great. Ladies and gentlemen, here we are. You guys are very bright. So evaluate the benefits to Mark Limited of outsourcing its internal audit department. Great. Number 2, explain the potential impacts on the external audit of Mark Limited if the decision is taken to outsource its internal audit function. Ladies and gentlemen, if we make a decision of outsourcing the internal audit function, will that be good for the external auditors or bad? What is the relationship between internal audit and the external audit? Remember, these external auditors, when they come on board, they are going to evaluate the work of internal auditors. Should they get that these guys are competent enough, that they have very good working papers, they have done quite a nice job, that their job is being respected by the seniors, whenever, for example, they make recommendations about internal control improvements, the board is taking them seriously, then the external auditor will place reliance on their work. Placing reliance on their work means doing little job, right? So I'm waiting in this case here to see what your answers are. I'm waiting to see what your answers are. It's better. Quality of work, yes. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, don't worry. We shall go here. Now, we are still reading the question here. Recommend procedures that could be used by your firm to quantify the financial loss suffered by Mark Limited as a result of the fraud. Basically, the concept of forensic fraud examinations. Very easy, really. Nothing there. Prepare a report to be presented to Danny and Stella in which you compare the responsibilities of the external auditor and of management in relation to the prevention and the detection of fraud. Ladies and gentlemen, whose duty is primary as regards to prevention of fraud and errors? Is it management's duty that is primary, or rather, is it who has that primary duty to detect and prevent fraud? It is management. It is management. That is something that I need to know from the word go. It is management who have that primary duty. Myself as an auditor, that duty is secondary to me. I can't even guarantee you that I will be able to prevent and detect frauds. No. What I'll tell you is that I'm going to put in enough sufficient, appropriate audit procedures. I'm going to gather sufficient, appropriate audit evidence such that I will be able to detect these frauds should they come my way. But remember, I'll remind you as a management responsibility, your work is to ensure that the ICS is strong. Your work is to prepare financial statements. Your work in this case is to ensure that you prevent, detect fraud and error. For me, that's a secondary thing. So what I need, ladies and gentlemen, you to understand is that you need this kind of a high level, what we call the helicopter knowledge. Once you have it, then expressing yourself in some of these questions here will not be a big thing. It will be a simple thing. It will be a simple thing. Now, ladies and gentlemen, here we are told here, assess the benefits and drawbacks for Mark Limited in establishing an audit committee. Ladies and gentlemen, it's very important for us to have a committee within the board which is able to focus on preparation of financial statements, which is able to focus on working with the audit team, right? Very important, very important. These are the people within this committee who are taking up actually the responsibility over what here financial reporting, very important. So they are quite many advantages, independence. They provide a whistleblowing channel for employees within the organization, etc., etc., etc. And of course, there are disadvantages. Disadvantages of is there anybody who can raise one disadvantage of an audit committee? Is there somebody who can raise one disadvantage of an audit committee? Only one, like this. Only one disadvantage. Only one. Is there somebody who can raise one disadvantage? Only one. Only one. Only one disadvantage. Only one disadvantage. Only one. Cost. Cost. It comes with a cost. Those guys are not cheap. Also, in terms of recruiting them, it's not easy to get people who have got that expertise, right? Yes, they may lack the know-how. Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, the audit committee, not unless you have got managers, can divide the board. Can divide the board, yes. Can divide the board quite a lot, yes. Ladies and gentlemen, let's now read the question very first. And if you allow, Mwalimu here will read, I don't know whether there are people here who can match my speed of reading. I can read very fast. So please be very attentive. That is what I'm implying. It's Mark Limited. It's a large private company whose business activity is events management, involving the organization of conferences, meetings, and celebratory events for companies. Mark Limited was founded 10 years ago by Danny Hudson and his sister Stella, who still own the majority of the company's shares. The company has grown rapidly and now employs more than 150 staff in 20 offices, quite a big organization. You are a manager in the business advisory department of Lack & Company. Your firm has just been engaged to provide the internal audit service to Mark Limited. In your initial conversation with Danny and Stella, you discovered that currently there is a small internal audit team under the supervision of Lindsay Montana, a recently qualified accountant. So when you are told that this accountant graduated just the other day, what comes to your mind, you good students? A recently qualified accountant. What comes to your mind when they make use of this kind of a good title? What comes to your mind? 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 Lack of experience. No experience, inexperienced person, right? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Great. A recently qualified accountant. Before heading up the internal audit department, Lindsay was a junior finance manager of the company. Junior again. The members of the internal audit team will be reassigned to roles in the finance department once your firm has commenced the provision of internal audit service. Mark Limited is not an existing client of your firm, and to gain further understanding of the company, you held a meeting with Lindsay Montana. Notes from this meeting are shown below. The internal audit team has 3 employees, including Lindsay, who reports the finance director. We started by you guys telling me that this is wrong. Internal audit should report to the audit committee. The other 2 internal auditors are currently studying. These guys are students like yourselves, and we're giving them very senior roles. Internal audit is a senior thing in an organization. The other 2 internal auditors are currently studying for their professional examination. If I'm an external auditor, I'll say I'll not rely on these people's reports. These are students, let them go to hell. First of all, they finish what year? Their professional examinations. The team was set up 2 years ago and initially focused on introducing financial controls across all of Mark Limited's offices. 9 months ago, the finance director instructed the team to focus their attention on introducing operational controls in order to achieve cost savings due to a cash flow problem being suffered by the company. The team does not have time to perform much testing of financial or operational controls. They don't have, this is their primary thing. If they're in internal audit, controls is their thing. In the course of her work, Lindsay finds many instances of management policies not being adhered to, and the managers of each location are generally reluctant to introduce controls as they want to avoid bureaucracy and the paperwork. As a result, Lindsay's recommendations are often ignored. 3 weeks ago, Lindsay discovered a fraud operating at one of the offices while reviewing the procedures relating to the approval of new suppliers and the payments made to suppliers. The fraud involved an account manager authorizing the payment of invoices received from fictitious suppliers, with the payments actually being made into the account manager's personal bank account. Fraud. Lindsay reported the account manager to the finance director, and the manager was immediately removed from office. Lindsay reported the account manager to the finance director, and the manager was immediately removed from office. This situation has highlighted to Danny and Stella that something needs to be done to improve controls within the organization. Danny and Stella are considering taking legal action against Mark Limited external audit provider, Manhattan and Company, because their audit procedures did not reveal the fraud. So you can see Danny and Stella here, they don't know. They don't know what external audit is all about. So you're told Danny and Stella are deciding whether to set up an audit committee. Mark Limited is not required to have an audit committee, but the external auditors recommend that a disclosure note explaining whether an audit committee has been established is included in the annual report. So evaluate the benefits to Mark Limited of outsourcing its internal audit function. I would want to go to the answers very first. It's question number 20. It's question number 20. Question number 20. So question number 20 is here with me. First page, question number 20, Mark. So benefits of outsourcing the internal audit department. Benefits of outsourcing the internal audit department. Staff. Lindsay only qualified recently, and the other two internal auditors are still studying for their professional qualifications. There is therefore a question mark over whether the team as a whole is sufficiently technically competent and experienced to do the work required of it. An external provider would have access to good quality staff. This would improve the quality of work done, and it would release Mark Limited from the burden of training and qualified staff. Authority. It appears that Lindsay's recommendations lack sufficient authority for them to be taken seriously by managers, possibly because she only recently qualified and was previously a junior manager. What you tell us, really. An external provider may command greater authority so that its recommendations may be more likely to be followed. Independence. At present, the internal audit team reports the finance director, and there is therefore a chance of it being reluctant to criticize the finance department overtly. An external provider would be under no such restrictions. Resources. The internal audit department appears to be under-resourced, as it lacks the time to perform much testing of the finance or operational controls. Outsourcing would give immediate access to a well-resourced internal audit function. Focus. At present, internal audit seems to lack focus or a specific remit. Its work seems to be determined by the finance director's priorities. An external provider will be able to focus on the full range of the internal audit work. Remember, these guys, external guys, will even come with their own audit plan. Staff to finance department. Moving Lindsay and her team into the finance department is likely to improve the control environment and the embedding of controls procedures within the organization, as the team will bring with it the perspective they have gained from working in internal audit. Now, ladies and gentlemen, look at this answer. What do you think of this answer? Is it an answer that is of a high quality or poor quality? High quality, poor quality. Please answer me and I'll tell you why most of us fail in this paper. Tell me whether it's of high quality or poor quality. Very good. You see what Oscar is telling us? high quality, making reference to the case. Most of you would have just said those one-liner statements, benefits of outsourcing, blah, 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 without making reference to the case. And if that happens, of course, we end up in this case here giving you a half a mark, a half a mark, a half a mark, a half a mark. So if the question had 10 marks, you'll end up getting 5 or even less, because even your one-liner statements, not all of them will be correct. Not all of them will be correct. So ensure that as you discuss some of these points, ensure that you are able to do what here, you are able to relate them to the case. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we come back to part B of the question. So part B of this question, using the work of internal auditors and what was the question asking about? What was the question asking about? Still this concept of relating, yes, relating the internal auditors to external auditors. Now, in line with ISA, don't get worried with this, they're the same. ISA 610, the auditor will have to consider internal audits, organizational status, and the relevant policies and procedures. So what is their status in the organization? Before the external auditor makes use of the internal audit work, they must get to know what their status in the company is. Internal audit's competence is key. Whether internal audit's approach is systematic and what are disciplined, they will then evaluate the specific audit work they are interested in. ISA 402 requires the auditor to consider the impact that outsourcing internal audit will have on Mark Limited's accounting and control systems. It is likely that Manhattan and the company will place more reliance on an outsourced internal audit function than on the present internal audit team, as such a function is likely to provide work of better quality. This may lead to reduced audit fee, which will be helpful for Mark Limited in view of its concerns over cash flow. Look at that argument. I mean, these guys are geniuses, strokes of a genius. Note, however, that auditors are prohibited from using direct assistance from the internal audit function. If new internal control procedures are implemented as a result of outsourcing internal audit, this may increase the amount of audit work required. Alternatively, the amount of audit work could decrease if new procedures are very significantly better than the old ones. Ladies and gentlemen, here the thing that you can easily remember is that as an external auditor, when I'm given work at RCM Online College, I'll come and ask a simple question. Do you guys have audit, internal audit? When they tell me yes, there are chances that I'll place reliance on their work. But before I place reliance on their work, I need to know who these guys are. What is the status in the organization? Who do they report to, right? Are they competent? Are they competent? I'll have to look at the order of their work, right? Right? Are they very organized? How are they doing their filing of working papers? What is the quality of the evidence that they collect? When I'm satisfied that these guys are doing a good job, they're competent, their work is being listened upon, people are able to hear what this internal audit department is saying, and they are able, of course, to work on whatever recommendations they are given by the internal audit, then as an external auditor, I know my work will be very much reduced because of what here I will place reliance on the internal audit department. And we've been told something very important, that even the client themselves, they'll be happy because when the external auditor are able to place reliance on the work of the internal audit, they're going to do little work, meaning that the audit fees will be reduced. Remember, in most cases, these guys will bill you. There is a fee that they bill you, which is based on the hours, time spent in the company. So if you don't put in your controls very well, if you do, you have so much in terms of, for example, fraud is going on, the auditor is going to stay in your company for a long time, and at the end of the day, in this case, they'll bill you, they'll invoice you for all the hours they've spent in your firm. So if you want things to be good, ensure that you empower your internal audit department. Great. I hope up to there we are together so that I can move on. Remember, it's a high-level revision. It's a high-level revision. I don't want you to start cramming. After all, the most important thing, you're not writing anything. This book is yours. Can you agree on that? This book is yours. This book is yours. Mine should be high level, high level, high level, high level. Thank you. Great, 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 great. Okay. Now, part C, they asked about procedures to quantify the loss. Do you remember that there was some fraud? Do you remember that there was some fraud? Do you remember that there was some fraud? If you remember that there was some fraud, I would want, in this case here, somebody to give me the audit procedures they would use to quantify the loss. Could you kindly write something down, however small? What are those audit procedures that you shall use to quantify the loss as a result of the fraud? Those things are the same. One-liner statements are the same. They're the same. Before I project the answer again, they're the same. They're the same. They are the same. They're not talking to me at all. I don't know why. They are not talking to me at all. I don't know why. They are not talking to me at all. Fraud, perpetrator loss. Not like Betty. Betty, you are talking. Compare your book balance, accuracy, do kind of reconciliations. But what are you reconciling here? Forensic accounting. Forensic accounting. I like what Nadia seems to be knowing this thing. Nadia, ulijulia wapi maneno? Nadia amesema atatumia the CAAT. The CAAT. The CAATs. The CAATs. The CAATs to be able to track down, on these payments. For example, you can even decide to make use of Excel as your CAAT. CAAT, I'm so sure there must be somebody ajui full meaning of CAAT. CAAT is a good procedure. So like Excel, what I'll do, I'll come and VLOOKUP. I'll VLOOKUP one supplier, the supplier like now the manager. This manager, the manager who we saw up there, whose account was being used here to receive money, right? I'll be able to use the VLOOKUP and look up for his name, and straight away, within a second or 2 seconds, I'll be having a list of all the suppliers who are able to pay money through his bank account. I like CAT. Great. Analytical reviews. I'm here listening. Analytical review, I like it, but